Alright guys, hello and welcome. It's time for the first match of the day going into the European Challenger Cup. It's going to be the Bronkos facing off against Norse Force in this one to start off the day. Picks and bans already coming through quite quickly. We'll take a look at what exactly they're banning on, what exactly they are picking. First ban of the day going to be Cirquet taken off the table by the Bronkos. To answer back, it's going to be Bologna. So, a little bit unusual compared to what we saw yesterday over in the North American side of things. We saw many Guardian bans, many Hunter bans as well, surprisingly, with Assassins not really seeing the light of day, the time of day, with many teams resorting to the triple Guardian, kind of double Hunter setups that we've been seeing a lot over in the SPL. So we'll see today if that repeats itself here in EU, or if these guys take a little bit of a different approach to things. First pick is going to be Thor getting locked in by the Bronkos, someone we didn't really see a whole lot of yesterday, either in picks or bans. I think yesterday he ended up getting played maybe once at least as far as games on stream. We saw him banned once in a counter-banning phase. Other than that, like I said, not much focus at all on the Assassins these days, because it's all about the Hunters. And speaking of which, it's going to be Xbalanque Neith locked in on the side of Norse Force. Neith being played in the mid lane a whole lot these days. So much presence out of there. The ability to scale up with that Heartseeker. You get that online burst of power pretty early on into the match. She also has the luxury of dealing fairly well with many mage matchups. Mages relying more heavily on their in-hand attack, or excuse me, on their abilities rather than the in-hand attacks. A little bit of a disadvantage when they're at a point. You have to rely on the mana, whereas Neith and other hunters and and other gods like that can rely more heavily on their in-hands back and forth. Although many of the other hunters aside from Neith do have some early issues with wave clear to where they can't necessarily meet the likes of, say, Poseidon, who was just locked in for the Bronkos. They also locked in Ymir, a possible float pick for these guys, although can definitely be run as support. EU definitely favoring that Ymir support role compared to NA, who generally prefers the more standard Athena, Geb, Sylvanas pickups. Of course, Athena and Sylvanas banned out this game. Not going to be seeing either of those played. But speaking of that, Geb, still available and able to be locked in, which Norse Force did before the counter-banning phase came into play. Bans coming out also, it's going to be Rom Yanis getting banned out in the second banning phase. And as we move on to the final few picks of this matchup, if I can find the Yanis, we can lock that one in. There we go. Now, this is a little bit of an unusual pick coming out. It's going to be Mercury locked in on the side of Norse Force. They already have that double Hunter online, so a lot of physical damage. Mercury is going to kind of be even more on top of that. So we'll have to see if they can make this work. Mercury definitely takes a long while to get online. Hunters, not quite so much. They're viable, especially with the Heartseeker rushes. As soon as they get the Assy online, they kind of get to a point where they can actually fight back and forth a little bit. It's not the hugest deal in the world necessarily, but it's still a little bit of a rocky period. They're viable, quote-unquote, but not necessarily online. You generally still want that execution in addition to that before they're really able to contribute to fights in a big way. At which point you can start seeing some pretty big numbers coming out, especially with the likes of Neith, who is kind of an ability-based AD carry hunter, who can just fire those abilities all over the place and do a lot of extra damage. Over on the side of the Bronkos, while I got distracted a little bit talking about that, it is going to be a Bakasura locked in, as well as an Apollo, as another second hunter lineup does emerge. Excuse me, the second hunter lineup. That is a one hunter lineup. There's no other hunter hiding in there. Poseidon he's kind of auto-attack based, in-hand based. He has a trident, he shoots 3 attacks at the same time. Who doesn't love themselves a lovely little, spread gun built into your kit? Final pick of the day, though. Norse Force going to be rocking that whole tanky front line, very aggressive composition with the Cabrakan locked in for that final pick of this particular matchup. It's going to be interesting. The Mercury is a bit of an unusual one for this, rolling that in the jungle more likely than not. Solo lane Cabrakan support Geb is my expectation for this particular matchup. It'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. Mercury takes a long while to get going. The Hunters can potentially take a long while to get going as well. Going up against the Bronkos, currently one of the higher seeded teams in EU. It's going to be interesting. They have a more balanced team composition. The Apollo can split push. They have the Hunters to kind of deal with him as well, so it'll be curious to see how that one plays out. But they also have that Thor and the Bakasura. Some big play setup from those Assassins. Thor can, of course, gank using his Anvil of Dawn from decent ways across the match. Bakasura can ruin many a Hunter's day with that Regurgitate coming out. And then it's going up against that Cabrakan over that soul lane as well. Has to be a little bit careful. At level 5, With Hand of the Gods up and online, Bakasura can Hand of the Gods the archers, pop down his Regurgitate, and look for an early kill, potentially first kill as well, depending on how it plays out. EU does tend to like those shorter matchups, those slower matchups, where there's not necessarily a whole lot of action early on. So we'll see in just a little bit how these teams look to play this one out. We're going to cut to a break, let the anti-ghost timer tick on down. We'll be back here in just a few. My mic is apparently not on. Rocking things to a great start so far today. My co-caster chiming in there towards the end as well, Rankonius! Thank you for joining us.
Give me 2 seconds. I'm just saying some quick stuff to my fiance. I had a very important phone call, really rocking business stuff, so that's why I was a little bit quiet. On the right-hand side, though, there's some invading going down. Wolf-for-Rich is actually going to get popped incredibly low, and Excelsior as well means that they will not get that mana buff for Excelsior in that solo lane on the Cabrakan, and instead that one's going to be dropped onto the Bakasura.
We also missed the most epic team introductions ever. It was absolutely crazy. And my microphone, for whatever reason, was muted. Not entirely sure how that happened. Hopefully, that will be the last of the audio issues. No repeats of yesterday. Still no idea how that happened either. The game audio and the co-caster audio was on the same stream. The co-caster was fine. The game audio wasn't. Things happened. Don't know why. It's not occurring today, so it's not important. Nevertheless, this is going to be the Bronkos facing off against Norse Force in the first match of the day for the European Challenger Cup. I'm Zayden, here with my co-caster, Rankonius. Apparently, important phone call is code for battling the zombie spider army. It just apparently it scared a few people. People have like a spider phobia, arachnophobia, all these kind of scary Australian creature phobias that no one really wants to have to deal with or talk about. Right side, bit of aggression coming out. Revel's looking for that first blood. Not quite gonna find it though.
Yeah, Mercury incredibly mobile, hard to lock down, hard to gank. Does take a lot of damage very early on, but he's gonna get through totally this fine. I missed what looks like an amazing God Select though, because we've got Apollo over in the duo lane, Ymir versus Gab, Neith in the mid lane versus Poseidon, that's going to be a fun lane, Mercury and Bakasura. So there's a lot going on in this God Select right here.
Yep, left-hand side of the map, trying to use that Stone Shield to save himself. Salarsi Geb is going to take a decent bit of poke. Apollo, being played by Xbalanque, going to be taking that first blood. With that off the table, let's go ahead and run through these rosters once again. This time with, in theory, people able to hear what I am saying and what my co-caster is saying. On the left-hand side of the map, we're in the blue trunks, defending the Titan of the border. We do have the Bronkos. Lennox playing the soul lane Bakasura. Revel in the jungle as Thor. Clyde in the mid lane as Poseidon. Tedelson playing the support Ymir. And finally, Xbalanque as Apollo in the AD carry hunter role.
And on the right-hand side of things, in the red trunks, it is going to be Excelsior on that Cabrakan in the solo lane. In the jungle, it is going to be Wolf-for-Rich with that Mercury. In the mid lane, it's going to be the Neith from Copycat Guy, who is copying some high-tier strats. On this engaged right-hand side, Revel is so low. Down comes the Darkest of Nights, but it doesn't do damage, of course. Those camps will, though, if he's not very careful about that. Saul Alcy was really looking for that, but Xbalanque is here on the Apollo, and he will roam around and pick up a nice kill. And Copycat Guy lives with a sliver of health underneath that mid tower. And we continue now with the introductions. They don't want us to introduce those players. No. Solasi on the Geb and Fotek on the Xbalanque.
Yeah, so good rotation there coming out from Xbalanque, securing that camp, as well as securing the safety and the life of Revel, who's in a bad spot after that bit of a skirmish on the right-hand side of the mid lane. Wolf-for-Rich now in the mid lane tower, a little bit worse for the wear. I talked about it a little bit during the picks and bans. Mercury really takes a long while to get online. The entire Norse Force lineup, for that matter, does, with that Neith as well as that Xbalanque. They have the Cabrakan. They don't want us talking about stuff as the ganks come out left side. Fotek in a bit of a bad spot. The combo from Revel with that Thor will be enough. He didn't stand a chance in that one.
Especially when auto attacks from Xbalanque just really look so beautiful. I love, like, when you look at Apollo's model, right, I really, really love the idea of the bows coming out of each individual hand. That, to me, is just such... How do we make this god range? How do we get him in the game? How do we make him do damage? That is a unique design. Great job, hi-rez Studios. Great job.
As well as a bit of a double dip there. So Beautiful is, in fact, the name of his one. And it's a very beautiful ability. It shoots out, it does damage, and a decent little line skill shot-y type. I don't know what you call a straight line skill shot. Just a skill shot? I don't know. It's not a cone. It's a very... It's a rectangular cone. I'll go with that.
A rectangular...
Yes.
Man,
yes.
I think you failed. I think you failed your three-dimensional objects classes at school, didn't you?
I think everyone's aware at this point I am not necessarily the best at the maths or the words or the many other things. So it is what it is. Nevertheless, jungler hanging out the mid lane, a little bit of a party as the buffs are finally respawning for the first time. Those will be getting more likely than not getting picked up by the respective members of each team. Yeah, the Norse Force lineup, though, aside from someone mentioned in chat as well, the lack of Norse gods potentially being an issue, but also the fact that, for the most part, they're going to take a pretty long while to actually get online and get going in this matchup, just due to the fact that Mercury is a late-game god, Neith is, it's a hunter, Photek on Xbalanque is a hunter as well. They're going to take a little while to actually get going to a point that they can fight. Whereas the Bronkos, they have that Thor, the Bakasura, the Poseidon even, if he goes, yeah, go for do more, but it doesn't look like no lost artifact even.
Oh, right inside, that is the level 5 coming through from a Bakasura, but he's going to tower dive and lose his life in the process, but hey, at least that little bit of XP deny, that's nice on the right-hand side as well. Cracking Clyde! He's going to find Wolferich, and now he's going to get found out by a copycat guy who just uses the opportunity of finding the Poseidon in the jungle to just sustain himself up just a little bit.
And that basically came down to the fact that typically Bakasura is known for his level 5 and level 9 timing pushes. You get those the first rank in your ultimate, you get that second rank in your ultimate, you look for a kill. Lennox got impatient, he went in at level 8 and he died to the tower as a counter kill to it. Nevertheless, he did get that kill 1 for 1, never the worst thing in the world, especially if you and your opponent are even at that point in time. You can see with that kill though, and a little bit of extra farm that Lennox has been able to get going up against Excelsior's Cabrakan, it's a little bit of a gold lead for him. He's up about 200-300 gold thereabouts as the Harpies do spawn. I believe that was both camps picked up by the Broncos. As Apollo goes up to the sky, they're going to be looking for this rotation back to that duo lane and trying to find Photek.
He is just going to get jumped on with that Rising Jaguar to get out of there. Won't find the stun from the Serenade from Xbalanque. Won't get anything, and he'll continue to taunt up Photek as he tries to clear out this next wave of minions. They're going to 3-man dive this. Goodbye, good night, farewell. At least he got serenaded on his way out of there.
Yeah, Bright Lane, they're trying to put some pressure onto Lennox's Bakasura right now, kind of keep him in line a little bit. You do not want a Bakasura get to the point in the game where he's ahead by a large margin. He has a kill and assist so far. His opponent's not, is pretty much even. We touched on that, a little bit of a gold discrepancy. But Lennox will be right. You can see Wolferich trying just to catch up right now. He's a little bit behind his opposing jungler. 3 levels right now as Thor jumps down right lane. Lennox is going to get caught by that sonic boom, but the fight is on.
Absolutely. Look at this. Cabrakan has got him locked up with that tectonic shift, and the World Weaver did miss out Revel. It did tag up his body in Lennox underneath the tower. Wolferich is looking for regurgitators down from Lennox. Does he have the AoE auto attacks? One more ticket damage will kill him off, but now Klein is going to come in from the left-hand side. This is a dead Excelsior. One more attack is going to slam into his face, and Copycat Guy's going to be left on the side like, guys?
Yeah, with these team comps, though, this is actually sort of to be expected at this point. The biggest standout is Wolferich on the Mercury. Is falling behind a little bit relative to everyone else in the game. He's even behind supports. The Hunters in lane are doing okay for the time being. Neith hasn't died yet. Xbalanque has died. He's a little bit further behind on stacks, as well as not having that assy built up quite yet. He's about 1,000 gold behind. They have been putting a lot of pressure on him. He's died twice so far. But if Norse Force are able to keep themselves in this game for probably about 15-20 minutes or so, and not having lost too much of the towers or too many of their phoenixes by that point, they're going to be a bit of a force to deal with. Cabrakan and Geb, a pretty strong front line, with Mercury doing a lot of damage as well. You know, he's an assassin at the end of the day, and those Hunters, they're going to start hurting once those in-hands and they get a couple items to actually increase their damage a bit.
And the mid-game spike as well coming through from Lennox's Bakasura. You mentioned it, level 5, level 9, that's where you want to be getting your kills. As soon as you ramp up that ultimate left-hand side though, Darkest and Ice is coming through because they need to get Swallowy out. Kraken drops, at least gets the damage off, but he's going to continue to run away and probably live through this one. Oh my god, the ultimate to come through from Xbalanque, and the lockup from the rest of the team. Clyde is going to pick that one up, and now it's Mercury going to get Frost Breath down. What do they have? Ice shards are doing a lot of damage, but Showdown, I don't think they got this one.
That was a good initiation by Photek to go back in on this one. Unfortunately, the other 2 members of his team nearby were not immediately following him. Between him as well as Wolferich, he found a good sonic boom. Photek went in to follow up on it. A little bit of miscommunication perhaps there by Norse Force to not engage and commit to that fight. The Broncos were in a real bad spot there for a second, and Norse Force just weren't able to capitalize on it.
Yeah, maybe they needed some more Norse Force, or rather, Revel was giving it to their face.
Or any Norse Force. No Norse gods in your Norse Force. No sense. Makes none.
Oh, the Serenade on the left-hand side is going to get counted out by that Poison Darts, and that will kill off from Photek. Get a nice pick, and in the mid lane, Copycat Guy grabs himself the left side, Hoppy Camp. And he's going for the right side as well, so this isn't quite over yet. Norse Force EU are starting to find their straps and just get a little bit back online in their favor.
Yeah, Cabrakan Guy has to clear that wave out. If you have the choice between a full wave of minions and the Harpy solo, the full wave of minions is actually worth a little bit more, so it's worth grabbing that instead of the Harpy camp. So that's why you saw Copycat going for the wave instead, as well as Clyde, while Copycat was picking up that left side camp. Right side of the map, though, Lennox, very low on health, but so is Wolf of Frisch, can't really go in. Excelsior's looking for the stun, and we'll find it. Tremors drop down. Takedown over the wall, though, will get Lennox out safely. No one in a position to rotate back in on that one. Excelsior's going to kind of chase a little bit, but this isn't going to result in a kill. Although that will do the trick. Forgot about that one.
I was just waiting for Excelsior to get it because you could just see Copycat Guy backing up a little bit in the mid lane, looking for it. On the left-hand side of the map now, Clyde rotating around with Revel, looking for some assassination potential. Swalasi. Well, he's just going to go ahead and roll on out there. Well, that's not really a rollout. He kind of flew off into the distance more than anything with that skin, but hey, he gets out all the same.
He activated travel mode, turned into a plane, and flew off for a little while, and then he turned back into normal log Geb. Oh, well,
he wasn't as earth attached as we're used to seeing him.
Exactly. Well, to be fair, metal comes from the earth as well. Gold Fury can start up right now with the Broncos. They're going to drop that Wrath of the Gods, Hand of the Gods to secure it. Salarsi going in now with the Shockwave, Cataclysm and the Shockwave, looking for something. Reveal drops down from the skies, looking for counterkill. Photek finds one. Geb, lone health, gets answered back. Frost Breath from Telson is good as Beluga falls, as well as Excelsior picking up Tetelson.
This one's not quite over yet. Clyde is incredibly low and out of mana. Lennox is now rotated around and he's looking for the pick on towards Photek. Down goes the Regurgitate. Can they find it towards Copycat Guy? One more! Yeah, there it is. He's going to pick it up and now he's forced to just run away from here. Uh-oh, in comes the backside over Luca, looking for that across the skies. We'll find Photek, and now what else can they find? Excelsior's in the backside of this one, and that is a higher level hunter than that solo lane Guardian.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a rough one, but Luca can kind of push him back to the tower. Shouldn't be able to look for a kill right here. That silver breastplate is online already. Steel mail. This is silver breastplate. Sometimes I actually know what the icons are at first glance, and I second guess myself and say the wrong thing. Silver breastplate, physical protection, extra bit of mana, and eventually some cooldown reduction once the breastplate of valor is complete. It'll be nice. But Luca in a spot of trouble. The moves used. B is going to be forced, trying to avoid that World Weaver. Will get caught, but a good wall is blocking those guys off.
Yeah, and they're going to look for the reinitiate. Revel's going to get the single tap and then go hard in with the Berserker Barrage. Can they find Excelsior? He's the next target, but Luca is forced to focus him down. Wanted to chase out Swalasi. Look at the wall! Great Frost Breath combo. Clyde is going to clean that kill up, but now they're under the tower. Beluga was taking that one up. He will have lifesteal when he can get back on towards some minions, but it's not a huge deal at this phase, and they will manage to live through, but weaken health bars nonetheless.
Yep. So as things stand, 13 minutes in this matchup, a Gold Fury in hand, and 15 kills to 6. The Broncos have themselves a decent lead, sitting about 6,000 gold up, as well as a decent bit of an experience chart, as the graph does show. Norse Force are making a pretty decent showing so far. They've had some fights go more or less in their favor, but a couple maybe, I don't want to say necessarily bad calls, but a little bit of indecision on committing to fights has so far been a little bit of an issue for those guys. Luca left side once again caught out.
Serenade's out Photek, and he's got his own support Ymir on the backside, and down comes that Anvil of Dawn. Can they find another stun towards Photek? It's not going to be so just now, but they're going to look for the Frost Breath. Grabs 2 from Tattleston. Still looking for some frozen carpet damage. They'll find it, but the rotation coming through from Copycat Guy will signal the end of that gank.
Yep, Revel's going to jump back, share the experience with Beluga as they kind of go back to a little bit of a farm phase right now. Clyde looking to kill mid lane. Good backflip from Copycat. Going to avoid the Kraken and the Whirlpool right there, so nicely played by him. Right side of the map, Lennox, this point in time, is not quite running free yet, but the tier 1 tower is down. He's able to roam around pretty much as he sees fit. Wolf of Frisch a little bit behind still, keeping himself more or less even where he was, still just 3 levels down. But Lennox looking for a counterkill in a 1v2.
Down goes that Regurgitate, and immediately they drop the damage. Tectonic Shift will zone his own ally off in the wall with him. Cabrakan, even, when I can finally say it correctly. Kind of killing off his own teammate there. Ouch.
I think there's one of those cases you try to kind of thread the needle between your ally and your opponent, and you kind of misplace it slightly, and it's like, that could have been an absolutely great play, but it wasn't. It's like one of those 50-50 shot type things. Excelsior now in a little bit of trouble. World Weaver is going to be used to make sure that he does remain safe on the right-hand side of the map. Buffs are respawning. You can see already both teams working on their respective sides of the map on those. Yeah, Lennox, though, is slowly but surely starting to grow. 3-2-3 on the score, but he has that Hasten Fatalis completed. He has that Executioner as well to shred through the opponent's armor. And, of course, when Regurgitate is active, that lovely cone of damage that he's doing in front of him can ruin many a person's day, especially when inside of Norse Force you have 3 very squishy physical damage dealers in the form of an Assassin Hunter. Left side, a fight is on. Wolfreach, good shield from Geb right there.
Yeah, but it's not quite over just yet. The Apollo is starting to get chased down, but will be forced out. Now this is a perfect Shards of Ice. They managed to get a nice focus off onto Photek on the backside. Copycat guy's a vulnerable target, but it's going to be Clyde with the first kill on a Photek. Anvil of Dawn has come in, and now still looking to chase down Ibeluka. Copycat guy finally cleans that one up, and they get a really nice tectonic shift off. But the wall off as well from Tattleson was perfect, and now the Whirlpool damage combined with the basic attacks from Clyde is able to clean that one up, and Excelsior lives with but a sliver of health. Meantime, middle lane, Lennox, he finds that tower and the Whirlpool on towards Wolferich. Goodbye, son. Goodbye. Gets Berserker Barrage to death by Revel.
Yeah, a rough one there for sure. That fight by the Gold Fury Pit, it really wasn't a favorable fight for either one of these teams. Left side, Copycat guy going to be forced to backflip away. Revel going to find a stun with that Tectonic Rift as the minions from Bakasura's belly close in. He will secure that kill. That left side fight was a messy one. Neither one of these teams really wants to fight in confined space, so the Tectonic Shift completely closing off the retreat of the Broncos, but cooldowns are coming back up. A Frost Breath from Tedelson, followed by a crack, the Poseidon Whirlpool plus a Frost Wall to stop the retreat. Kind of ruined the day briefly for those guys, so back and forth, not great spots, just the Broncos came out on top. Their lead in no small part due to the affecting that fight overall. The Broncos will get another Gold Fury for free in this particular instance. So their gold lead is gradually growing, 10,000 gold now, sitting at the 16 minutes and 50-second mark.
That gold lead is starting to get a little bit out of hand. 10k, 17 minutes in. More importantly, though, is the XP difference. Look at that, 16k already. 16k. It's almost level with the time we're through into this game. That is a large problem. That is a significant problem. Solasi is the closest in levels, only 1 in the difference, but Photek 3 behind an Excelsior, 4 behind on Wolferich. Copycat guy, he's 4 behind as well.
At this point, Crossbreath mid lane onto Geb. That's a lot of damage, and that's a lot of dead Geb.
Maybe he was just a little bit dirty that we're trying to help him clean off with a little bit of water from Clyde.
Well, water and metal don't generally mix. He's not stainless steel. Come on.
Excelsior gets focused down. Revel is going to clean him off with the double tap. Now the chase continues, but it's going to be the Broncos. They've got the damage. It may be only 17, 18 minutes into the game at this point, but they've got the damage here, Jordan.
Yeah, as long as I play this correctly, there's 3 members of Norse Force on their way over here. We'll see if they can stop this. Fire Giant is just getting burned through right now. Health bars on the side of the Broncos are staying fairly full. No one really is in position to steal this. The Broncos will secure an 18-minute Fire Giant right now as they're looking to chase these kills. Revel says, no, you will not chase these guys down. I will block you off. Beluga does find Photek as the damage from Revel right now doing work. Mercury just not quite surviving.
Not quite surviving. The Whirlpool is doing work, and now Copycat guy is just CC locked as well. They're going to clean him up, and they're going to continue to dive underneath this tower. Clyde yanked almost his health bar out of that one, but Solasi, a couple more basics will do it, but Ibeluka is not going to pick it up. It's going to belong to Lennox, and now onto the tower. This is one of 3 last remaining towers, and the rest of them aren't going to stand much longer either.
Nah, definitely. A big part of this match as well is just the vision control by the Broncos. They're on the map right now. You can see there's 4 sentry wards placed down, a whole load of regular wards as well. And most importantly, it's on the enemy side of the jungle. Norse Force are actually finding what look to be favorable picks. Oh, we found the enemy in our jungle. There's only 2 of them. We can fight these guys. You see all 5 members of Norse Force close in. But because of the vision, they have tabs on exactly where everybody on Norse Force is. The Broncos rotate in for the counter engage and are finding these fights in the end. So Norse Force, they're setting themselves up well. But the Broncos, with all this vision control, can decide ahead of time, do we want to fight this? Can we fight this? And they can decide, yes, we can, close on in, and stop people from getting picked off in situations where they should probably be dead to rights in most other situations, if not for if not for all the vision they had.
Look at this. This is 1 ward down. one ward from Norse Force. You can't fight a map when you have no control over where your enemy are. Look at this. It's going to be the invade down on what's Photek, and he is going to be forced to pop his beads. That's a problem. That was just Tattleston as well. That was one man. Right-hand side, Clyde. This is just slowly being tied up, all in a nice little perfect nutshell from the side of the Bronkos.
Yeah, left-hand side of the map right now, Beluga doing what he can, slowly but surely whittling through that tier 2 tower. Mid lane, the remaining 4 members are grouping up. Wolf is still trying to do what he can to farm up and get himself into this game. It's one of the problems with Mercury. He really is not online or viable till later. That's a double frost breath coming in. The damage is about to burst. Now it's going to be 2 quick kills in order. Copycat guy going to backflip out to safety. That tier 2 tower mid lane's dead to rights. Left side, Luca rather, is looking for that tower as well as that kill. Going to force him back as well as giving chase right now.
Across the skies, it's up, it's coming in. Photek just gets burst out. Beluga will find that one, and they find all of the last remaining towers on the map in just a few seconds. But Beluga finally turns around and helps his team out with this last standing tower. Mid lane though, Reval, he's comfortable taking up that Phoenix. That speaks words. How far ahead they are. Cataclysm on top of a Kraken though, and that means that Clyde will find himself another. The KDA padding continues. He's at 9-0 and 11, Shodan. 9-0 and 11. What are you doing to that?
Not much. A pick onto the enemy side and doesn't hurt. Unfortunately, answering one back, not helping things either. As the left Phoenix will fall, the mid lane Phoenix fell just prior to that. Copycat guy backflipping out once again. Good showing so far from him, for sure. Good positioning, good use of that backflip, avoiding a lot of damage. Unfortunately, not making it back to the safety of that fountain, will fall once again. Meanwhile,
did you see that? Before. Oh my god, sorry, I'm sorry for cutting you off, but did you see that before that? Tattleston's just like, no guys, come on, we gotta go base. Walls his own team off.
The wall shenanigans this game have been real. 3 gods with them at their disposal, making good use of them. In some cases against their own team, at the cost of their own teammates' life in some cases as well. Nevertheless, this game looking like it may be wrapping up here in the next few minutes, as the Broncos have themselves a strong lead coming up on 21,000 right now as Gold Fury is about to fall for the 3rd time in favor of the Broncos. They've made good use of their early game pressure. They established for themselves. Beluga. The walls, guys. The walls are real. Tettelson.
Yep.
Blocking off Beluga and then clapping about it.
That's okay. So this has now turned into a lot of just focusing on fun. But if there is any hope left, right? If there is any hope for Norse Force EU, they do have the Mercury. They do have the double Hunter composition. If Xbalanque's got 3 kills, so he's already got 3 stacks on that passive. That's 15 bonus free power. So if he can hold the stacks on his Heartseeker, and Copycat can as well, that's the problem, right? Heartseeker, they're both so behind in this game, Shodan.
Yeah. The big thing, though, is Clyde is so big, he can just burst through these hunters. With that whirlpool of beads are down, they're not going to be getting out of that one alive. It's a hard ask as well. Even the Turtle and farm in their base, the fire minions do a lot of damage, plus this team on the Broncos would be rough. Fight on once again. Sonic Boom found a couple of them.
They're going to keep fighting, even though in the middle of the Tremors, it's actually a decent fight coming through slowly from Norse Force EU, but the gold lead, it's just devastating to them. The triple kill for Clyde, he's looking for a quad, he wants that one. And thank you Tattleston, you finally got it. It was finally worth it. That wall off in the end secures the quadra kill.
Yep, and with that, that is likely going to be the game. The respawn time still sitting already sitting 20 plus seconds up. Broncos coming out strong in this one. Norse Force made quite a few good showings in these team fights. A lot of them were very close, but a couple perhaps hesitations earlier on. Norse Force had a couple fights they could potentially have, or at least looked like they could have won, but a little bit of mixed engagements. A couple people went in, a couple people hung back a little bit. Nevertheless, making good showing up against one of the higher seeds in the EU Challenger Cup. The Broncos will be moving on to the round of 16 to face off against... I had this up and ready for 6 Sigma here in just a few minutes, guys. Stick around. We'll be back with that game in just a few.